This crisp triangle began as flour, potatoes, peas, onions, and spices moving through completely different parts of the factory.
And before it reaches a box, every seam has to survive heat, cooling, and inspection.
Crisp outside, spiced filling inside. This triangle is the end of a much bigger production story. The satisfying part is not one samosa. It is the unbroken rhythm of every station working together.
Before a single piece is packed, shape, seal, color, and surface all have to survive inspection.
The process begins far from the fryer, with ordinary ingredients arriving in separate streams.
Flour, potatoes, onions, peas, oil, and spices are kept separated until their turn on the line.
Vegetables enter the wet side first, where loose soil and surface debris are washed away.
This is where separate ingredients stop looking separate and begin becoming the samosa filling.
Farther down the factory, another line prepares the wrapper that must hold that filling without tearing.
When filling and dough finally meet, the factory shifts from preparation to pure repetition.
All right, these crates need to be checked thoroughly for damaged potatoes before washing. Let's make sure the count matches the invoice. Dry ingredients take a different route from vegetables because moisture control starts at receiving. Human inspection still matters here. Bruising, sprouting, and obvious defects are faster to judge by eye. Onions arrive as a separate batch, ready for trimming, peeling, and slicing before cooking.
Peas add sweetness, color, and texture, but they join the filling much later than the potatoes.
Keep these powders free-flowing before they're measured.
Copy that.
Check the samosa scale.
The worker team rolls cooking oil containers toward a protected storage zone. Bulk flour moves toward the dough room without crossing the wet vegetable route.
Anything visibly damaged is removed early, before it can enter equipment that handles much larger batches.
The floor plan keeps each ingredient stream organized so the next department receives only what it needs.
Now the raw vegetables leave receiving and enter the first true processing step, washing. Even the empty containers are cleared quickly, keeping the receiving lane open for the next delivery.
From this point forward, the process becomes increasingly precise with every station.
The relentless water spray cleans the produce thoroughly. The brushes ensure a deep scrub, preparing them for sorting. Spacing the potatoes makes defects easier to see before peeling begins. Excess wash water drains away before the potatoes enter the peeling equipment. Heat loosens the outer skin quickly, preparing the potatoes for a cleaner mechanical finish.
Any stubborn skin, deep bruise, or damaged section can still be removed before cutting.
Uniform pieces cook more evenly, which helps the filling reach the same texture from batch to batch. The diced potatoes are collected without crushing them, preserving enough structure for the final filling. The goal is tenderness without turning every cube into paste.
Texture is checked before the potatoes move on. Too firm or too soft changes the final bite.
While potatoes cook, the onion line prepares the aromatic base for the kettles. Thin, even onion pieces cook quickly and spread their flavor through the filling.
Fresh aromatics are sorted separately because they need gentler handling than potatoes.
The cutter reduces the chilies quickly,
while enclosed guards keep hands away from the blade path. Leafy herbs are prepared near the end, so their fresh aroma is not lost too early. Peas need little mechanical work, so washing and draining are enough before cooking. With every component ready, the factory can build the filling in a controlled sequence. Turmeric and red chili are carefully measured. This batch requires a higher ginger content. Check the brown spice levels against the formula.
A fixed addition order helps each batch develop the same aroma and color.
The kettle uses indirect steam heating around the vessel wall rather than an open flame below it.
The onions hit the hot oil first, building the savory base that carries the spices.
The agitator scrapes and folds the mixture so the bottom cooks without sitting still.
This short stage changes the entire aroma of the line as the dry spices bloom in hot fat.
Color deepens almost immediately, but the mixture keeps moving to prevent scorching.
The potatoes join only after the aromatic base is ready.
Keeping the mixer moving spreads seasoning through the potatoes instead of crushing one spot repeatedly.
Peas enter after the potatoes, adding small bursts of color and texture.
Fresh aromatics are held back until later, so their character stays noticeable in the finished filling. Machines do the heavy mixing, but the operator still watches moisture and texture by eye. A good samosa filling must stay cohesive enough to portion, yet loose enough to eat cleanly. Once cooking stops, the filling leaves the hot vessel quickly, so it can cool for forming. Cooling matters because warm filling can soften dough and weaken the seal during forming.
The team at Dock 6 is preparing the final shipment. Make sure the inventory matches the manifest.
The wrapper begins with a dry flour charge inside a mixer built for repeated batches.
The water is added gradually so the dough develops without becoming sticky too quickly.
Fat helps create the firm, crisp wrapper associated with fried samosa pastry.
At first, the mixture looks crumbly, then repeated folding pulls it into a single mass.
The line checks consistency before the dough is allowed to rest. The dough leaves the mixer as one heavy mass rather than finished wrappers.
Resting relaxes the dough so the next rollers can flatten it more evenly. Dividing the mass keeps the sheeting line supplied at a steady pace. The first pass is deliberately thick. Later rollers do the fine work. Each roller gap reduces thickness gradually, limiting tears and uneven stretching. Tiny mechanical adjustments change the sheet more than brute force ever could. With every pass, the wrapper becomes thinner, longer, and more uniform. A controlled dusting prevents sticking without burying the dough in loose flour. Consistent wrapper size is what lets the filling deposit land in the same place every time.
A wrapper that cracks here would fail later during folding or frying.
The flat wrapper now has to become a pocket before any filling can be added.
The overlap forms the first seam and creates the familiar cone shape.
That first seal must hold before the cone reaches the filling depositor.
Spacing on the conveyor keeps each pocket aligned under the depositor.
The filling arrives cool and portioned, protecting the wrapper from heat and overloading.
A human check catches folded corners or uneven filling before final sealing.
One final fold turns the open cone into a closed triangle.
The paste acts as an edible adhesive, helping the last seam stay closed during frying. Pressure is firm enough to close the seam without squeezing filling through the wrapper. This is the point where individual ingredients finally become recognizable samosas. The merge prevents crowding before the products approach the fryer.
Rejecting a weak seam now is easier than dealing with a split product in hot oil.
Every triangle needs enough space to enter the fryer without sticking to its neighbor. The transfer belt carries pale raw samosas toward the glowing fryer entrance. A few seconds later, the pale dough begins changing color and texture. The fryer surrounds each wrapper with heat, setting the seams before the crust turns crisp. The violent bubbling is moisture leaving the dough while the crust cooks. The moving mesh keeps residence time consistent and prevents pieces from drifting into piles.
Operators look for changes in flow, foaming, and product color while the line runs.
At the exit, excess oil drains back before cooling begins. A short draining step keeps surface oil from traveling into the cooling and packing area. Cooling firms the crust and protects packaging from trapped heat and condensation.
Now appearance matters again. Color, shape, blisters, and closed seams are checked together.
Weight control helps reveal pieces that are badly underfilled or oversized. Ensures quality is maintained. A final foreign object control sits between production and packaging.
The outside should stay crisp while the filling remains moist and cohesive.
Only after cooking, cooling, and inspection does the product move toward the final pack. Packaging begins by presenting clean containers at the same pace as the product stream.
Different pack formats can share the same upstream cooking line.
The seal protects the finished samosas from handling after they leave the clean production zone. Individual packs become shipping cases ready for the warehouse.
The process ends where logistics began, except the pallets now carry finished food instead of raw ingredients.
From raw vegetables and flour to a crisp-filled triangle, the entire factory has been built around controlled repetition.